So are you a student or an emerging entrepreneur? Are you passionate about an idea? Are you motivated to take risks? Are you a risk taker? And will you get through anything that comes in front of you? Have you got a vision for the future? How many of you have an ambition or already have your own business? And how did you go about starting that and getting into the idea of wanting your own business? And what problems did you solve by creating that business? And what was it that made you want to bring that business to life? What were you solving for the 21st century? And it's not until an entrepreneur looks into the market trends and the consumer buyer behavior and what the consumer is expecting in the future that they develop a great successful idea. And with that obviously comes some hurdles and things like threats in the economy and threats to finances, so lack of finances, and increasing living costs. So people are like, I don't want to kind of be self-employed, I want to be employed and have job security. But is that more beneficial, or is it more beneficial to be self-employed and pursue with your idea that's going to change the future and change something that you've spotted a gap in the market for? You're going to be delivering a new trend. And is your motivation to do that? Have you got passion to do that? Or are you just going to go and work for someone else who's going to do that for you, and you're going to be employed with less control over how you can change the future? And having competed in a tough industry myself, chocolate and confectionery, endless amounts of competition, many different chocolatiers, many different chocolate companies, from the big to the small independents who come across new ones every time. And if you take a walk through Belgium, I'm sure you'll be seeing chocolatiers left, right and centre. And I actually did all most of my master chocolatier studies in Belgium over the summer holidays throughout my education, because I was doing education in term time. So that was the only time I had. And every time I'd walk back from where I was doing my training to the hotel, I'd just see chocolatiers. And I'm like, there's so much competition and they're opposite each other. And where I'm in Chichester as well, there's every single chocolate shop you can imagine in the high street. And I'm like, there's so much competition, but everyone is different. And that was a big thing for me, is how to be different in a market which I'd literally just come into, and how to stand out from the crowd. And that was the big thing for me, is competing. And this is where my motivation came from, my passion to stick with my product. The whole idea of the business, to give you a brief overview, was from when I first went on an inspirational school trip, which I thought was very unusual for a school to, on the last day, take to a chocolate factory in France. It was very interesting. So I went away and I really enjoyed it. It was a great experience and I learnt a lot. So when I came back, I thought I could actually do something with this, and I actually do this in my mum and dad's kitchen. So didn't tell them, just kind of started, and I developed a small chocolates and made some packaging in my free time after schools, and created a small product. It wasn't nothing special, chocolates in an ice cube mold, that's all it was. And sold them for 20p with a partnership I created with the NSPCC, who were doing a charity bike ride annual event in my area. So went along to that, set up a little stall. I took a cool box because that was as highly technologically suitable for me at the time. And I was like, I got a cool box, put some ice in it, put the chocolates in there, and I got there, and the packaging I'd used was printed at home. It got a bit damp in the ice box, so I learnt my first mistake in business. And but I kept going, reduced the products, so it was a bit cheaper, and sold them on, and sold so many that day. I sold out in 3 hours of being at the event, and the event was a 9-hour event. So I thought I could do this again on the next weekend, but I don't need to be at another event to do it. I can do it myself somewhere else, outside a shop or in the high street. So I got in touch with some local people and checked with the council and stuff. Managed to kind of secure myself a place in different high street locations to start selling these chocolates I was making on weekends. So I'd make them over the week and then sell them on the weekend. And I did this for 3 years for charity. And that's where my drive came from, is when I saw how much impact it was having. Although there were so many chocolates out there, people were tasting the difference. They were tasting that it was a different product, and it had come into the market with a different ambition. And it wasn't just competing with what's already out there. There was something niche about my product and how I had made it. And that's what drove me to take upon studying chocolatiering as an additional part of education. And I don't regret it. I loved every bit of it. And I went all around the country and Belgium and France to do all my training. And that's one thing that I come across students who say, but wow, how are you in education and doing uni together? And that is the main thing that I want to talk to you about today. For me, education helped me in everything I did. And I feel like if I didn't do the education, it would have hindered me in my business. Because I'm very practical and I like to put things into place as soon as I learn it. And it taught me a lot about current affairs, taught me a lot about business, how to actually do things properly, not to get in trouble, do things efficiently and productively. And that's what made my business excel to over the last 9 years I've been running it. And that's where my passion and drive came from. And it would be kind of in your own interest as to whether you take a risk or not. But I think you would agree that the biggest risk is not actually taking any risk at all. Because if you don't take a risk at all, you're never going to know where that could have taken you, what implication that could have had on the future, and how it could have changed. But if it does go wrong, you can change it. You can learn from it. But you would have never learned if you didn't take the risk. And that's what I was thinking when I was making these chocolates. And I was thinking it's changing the future in this part. It will change the future later. And it will come when the time is right and when everything is efficient. And obviously you have the hiccups in the first starting stages. And I learned from them. And I feel if I didn't start at such a young age, I wouldn't have learned from my mistakes. And I wouldn't have learned about how to rectify them, how to correct them, and how to get to where I've got now. And you would have thought that in this century, there's so many different emerging technological changes. And everything's kind of changing in terms of consumer buyer behavior. You're going online, buying things online, or going in store and buying things on store and trying to get your shopping done early, easy. So go on Amazon and put everything to your basket and click checkout, and that's your Christmas shopping done. But in chocolate, there's a sense of if a consumer tastes the product, then they know what they're getting and how it's different. And that's what we did through our events, and that's what gave us the next step in the market against our competitors. So it's things like this, and these are things that I learned through my education, and hence why I always encouraged in all of my talks that education was something I wasn't going to give up on. And a bit hypocritical to say towards the end I did get to the stage at A-levels where I was like, I've just gone through GCSEs and A-levels and set up my limited company, having to do company accounts and do GCSEs and then do A-levels was way too much. But I had to sacrifice social life. And I didn't want to go to university, I just wanted to continue with my business. And it was literally a last minute change. I chose to go to uni, I declined all my offers, and I chose to go to uni 2 days before I was meant to start. So I got put into a random flat when I got there, in halls accommodation, but I loved it. And it was the biggest change from going away from home, away from the business, and running it over the internet, over the phone. And there were problems, and that's when things more problems started to come about, and I had to learn more obstacles that I had to get over. I had to get over how to manage staff from being away when there's a problem. What do you do? Staff try to call you when you're in lectures. What do you do? And there's things like this, and certain things you can't avoid. So you have to answer the phone, you have to text in lectures, and you have to use your laptop like as if you're making lecture notes, but actually you're just doing some work. So you have to make these sacrifices, and this is stuff that I had to do to stick with my ambition and a risk that I had taken to run a business and be in education throughout my life. Being a student, when I'm so exposed to all the education that is given, the free support which we take for granted, when lecturers are like, oh, there's an evening network event tonight at 7 o'clock, but you're like, oh, but I could go out at 7 o'clock, or I could go to a LinkedIn session to improve my LinkedIn profile. And you weigh up the pros and cons, and you actually realise, well, the LinkedIn session would have improved my profile and probably got me an extra contract, which it did for me. And things like that, they're kind of weighing up the pros and cons. You could have your social life at another time or later on that night, but an hour can change so much later. what can that hour do, and what can those evening sessions do and deliver? Because there's people out there in business who have been in there for years, and they're trying to email around, trying to organise these events, and trying to get network groups together and pay loads of money to join network groups. But it's free while you're in education. It's free at uni, and it's free in secondary school, and it's there, and it's given to you. So why not use it? Why not make the most of it, and use all that free support you're getting to excel your business for when you graduate, or when you finish your higher education? Why wait until the end? And why do you think you're too young? And that's what went through my mind. And I was really fortunate enough that this year, Princess Anne visited my production site in Brockham, and she put me really to the test in terms of my knowledge in chocolate and how I sustainably create the product. And I managed to answer her questions, and she was very impressed. And she said one thing to me. She said, don't give up on uni and keep going with the business as well. But she was the one who said that you never know where it takes you in the future, because chocolate may be not in demand in the future, but you've always got to be thinking about what you can do next and how you can do something different with the same product. Because that product might not be in demand later, but it is in demand now, so what else can you do with it? And I feel like most of that information is available throughout my education system, when I'm at uni, when I'm listening to lecturers who's doing the research. And that's all free support. You're getting it as part of what you paid for. And throughout school, you've got all the resources you need. And it's just about taking a step back and using all that efficiently, because I feel like if I could change the last 9 years of how I've run my business and how I've used the education that's been provided and the opportunities, I would change it. And students say that they haven't got enough time, or there's other activities to do. But in my opinion, every opportunity is great. Take it if you can, and if you can't, follow up on it and try and do it yourself. And that's the main thing. I've made mistakes, I've made losses in various things I've done, but it hasn't held me back. It's made me pick up, learn, and keep going. I think that's the thing. If you find out new ways of overcoming it, and not necessarily stopping there. There's so much that can be done, not only with your education. If you just take the step out and go and get involved in other events that businesses are running that aren't to do with education, that aren't in your personal target audience. So I've been to events where there's probably everyone's about getting ready to retire and talking about retirement. And I'm there, and I'm like, well, how is this helping? But the information that you gain from those events and the contacts you gain really help, because I've had people who have retired in the industry who have come and helped me from those events. So there's things like that. You're never a odd one out, and you can get involved in anything you want, whenever you want, if you make it happen, and if you create the positives out of every event. And that's what I've always believed in, and that's how I felt kind of setting up my business wasn't easy, with so much competition, but don't be put off by what obstacles get thrown at you, and use them with the systems that you have available, such as the internet. There's so much on there, and as well as using your education, which is the main thing. Don't give up on that just because you've got a business, and don't wait until the end. Start and go along with your education and do them in parallel, and it will really help, because you can implement what you're learning straight away, and you don't forget things, and you can do it in current, because when you leave, everything's going to be out of date. I was heartbroken when I ordered my tax textbook for uni, and it was about that thick, and then the lecturer said, yeah, by the time you leave uni, that's all going to be out of date, you're going to have to learn it all again. And I was like, well, for me, I can use that now, and I can put that into my business now, so when I'm doing my accounts this year, that's going to help me, but that's not going to help me afterwards. So I know I've made use of that textbook. That £56 on that textbook, which is now no longer useful, I've used that, because I used that in my business this year. But if I had waited to set up my business after uni, that would have never come in handy, because I would have had to learn it all again, spend another £56. And these are the benefits in thinking outside of the box as an entrepreneur that really gets you to the next stages, and really kind of underpicks how it's not so hard. Not so hard. At the end of the day, if you make the right choices and take on the right opportunities and see the right gaps in the market to actually set up a business at a young age. And it's actually beneficial to set it up at a young age, because you've got an opportunity cost is much lower. And you can still be employed. I've been employed in businesses as well, and people say, oh, why are you going and getting a job in a company when you've got a business? But it's helping me to develop ideas of how they're running their company, what they're doing, and what I can do better in my own business. And that's what I want to get out of working for other companies as well. I'm going to be doing an internship, and that's taking a year out working for another company overall, for a whole year. That's improving my knowledge. And when someone says to me, what are your grades and what have you got? To me, I think, well, wait, is it about the grades or is it about the experience that you've gained? Is it about if you've got an A or a C or a D? Because that's just an exam at the end of the day. That's something you sit under pressure, and you may know more than your exam shows you know, and you may be put off by your marks. But can you be put off by the experience and the qualities you gain from actually doing it for real? And can someone test you for an exam more and approve of the exam result or your work experience? And that's the big thing. So if you're sacrificing your exam results a bit, then what's the opportunity cost? Because you're actually enhancing your CV a lot. And I'd like to end on that. And never doubt yourself in what you can achieve. And use your age to your advantage. Because trust me, as soon as you go past 18, it's all downhill from there. It gets a lot harder. And I'm putting that out there because I'm in that stage now. I've gone past 18, and I wish I had done more before. Thank you very much.